Remembrance Day is a Memorial Day observed in the Commonwealth member states since the end of the First World War in 1919, to honour the armed forces members who have died in the line of duty. The day is also marked by war remembrances in several other non-Commonwealth countries. In most countries, Remembrance Day is observed on the 11th of November to recall the end of the First World War hostilities. Hostilities formally ended on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, in accordance with the armistice signed by the representatives of Germany and the Entente between 12 minutes past 5 and 20 minutes past 5 that morning. The First World War officially ended with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles on the 20th of June 1919. Armistice on the Western Front. On the 11th of November 1918, after more than 4 years of horrific fighting and the loss of millions of lives, the guns on the Western Front fell silent. Although fighting continued elsewhere, the armistice between Germany and the Allies was the first step to ending the World War I. When the First World War began in August of 1914, few expected the conflict to last beyond Christmas. Over the course of the next few months, however, it was clear that this would not come to pass. The conflict already expanded beyond Europe, included great movements of imperial colonies in Africa and Asia. As it progressed further, independent nations like Bulgaria, Romania, Italy and the Ottoman Empire, China and Japan joined in the fighting. Not until 1918 would the war's end be in sight. In October of that year, an armistice between the Ottoman Empire and the Allies ended fighting in the Middle East. Only days later, the disintegrating Austro-Hungarian Empire signed the armistice with Italy. In the West, the German army's imminent collapse led to Germany to pursue an armistice. The Allied delegation, led by Supreme Allied Commander Marshal Ferdinand Foch, largely ignored United States President Woodrow Wilson's 14 points for peace and left no room for negotiation. The German delegation was given 72 hours to accept the terms, which were purposefully severe to prevent Germany from resuming the fighting. These included complete demilitarization and the evacuation of France, Belgium and Alsace-Lorraine, a territory that had been annexed by Germany in 1871 following the Franco-Prussian War, and the immediate release of Allied prisoners of war and interned civilians. On November the 10th, the Germans received a word that Kaiser Wilhelm II had abdicated and instructions from the new government that they should sign the armistice. At 5 a.m. on the 11th of November, the armistice was agreed upon. Marshal Foch sent the word to the Allied commanders that hostilities will be stopped on the entire front beginning at 11 o'clock on the 11th of November, hours of the French. Allied troops would not go beyond the line reached at that hour on that date until further orders. The war on the Western Front had officially come to an end, though one of the several armistices signed in 1918 is the Armistice of November 11th that left the lasting global legacy. Observant in the Commonwealth. Common British, Canadian, South African and Anzac tradition includes a 1 or 2 minute silence at the 11th hour on the 11th day on the 11th month, as that marks the time in the United Kingdom when the armistice became effective. The service of remembrance in many Commonwealth countries generally includes the sound of the last post, followed by a period of silence, followed by the sounding of Reveille, or sometimes just the rouse. The service of remembrance is finished by a recitation of the Ode of Remembrance, Flowers of the Forest, O Valiant Hearts, I Vow to Thee My Country, and Jerusalem, are often played during the service. Services also include flowers laid to honour the fallen, blessings and the national anthems. The Treaty of Versailles. The armistice was agreed upon on the 11th of November of 1918, but the formal peace treaty was not agreed until the following year. This peace treaty became known as the Treaty of Versailles, and it was signed on the 28th of June 1919. The discussions about the treaty between Britain, France and the USA began in January of 1919. Germany was not invited to contribute to these discussions. Germany assumed that the 14-point plan set out by the President Woodrow Wilson of the USA in January of 1918 would form the basis of the peace treaty. However, France, who had suffered considerably during the war, was determined to make sure that Germany would not be able to challenge them again. Under Clause 231, the War Guilt Clause, Germany had to accept complete responsibility for the war. Germany lost 13% of its land and 12% of its population to the Allies. This land made up 48% of Germany's iron production, and a large proportion of its coal productions limited its economic power. The German army was limited to 100,000 men, and the navy was limited to 5,000 sailors. As financial compensation for the war, the Allies also demanded a large amount of money known as reparations. The Treaty of Versailles was very unpopular in Germany and was viewed as extremely harsh. Faced with the revolutionary atmosphere at home and shortages of conditions of the war, the German government reluctantly agreed to accept the terms with two exceptions. They did not accept admitting total responsibility for starting the war, and they did not accept that the former Kaiser should be put on trial. The Allies rejected this proposal and demanded that Germany accepted all terms unconditionally or face returning to war. German government had no choice. Representatives of the new parties in power, the SPD and the Centre Party, Hermann Müller and Johannes Bell, signed the treaty on the 20th of June 1919. Many Germans were outraged by the Treaty of Versailles. They regarded it as dictated peace. Müller and Bell were branded on the November criminals by the right-wing nationalist party that opposed the treaty. Revolution. Despite the war drawing to an end in 1918, conditions in Germany did not dramatically improve. Initially, Allied forces still blocked shipments of food and supplies from entering Germany. Although some food and supplies got through, these were sparse and therefore expensive. The stab-in-the-back myth fed extreme nationalism, anti-Semitism and anti-communism. The new government was unpopular amongst the large sections of the population, and some people still felt loyal to the Kaiser. It was in the midst of these challenging circumstances that in late 1918, the early 1919 violent revolution spread throughout Germany. In January 1919, the Spartacist uprising by the German Communist Party threatened Berlin. In April 1919, the southern region of Bavaria, a communist state, was established in Munich. Faced with these threats and newly established democratic government, President Erhard used the German army and the Freikorps to crush the revolutions. These uprisings were defeated quickly, but the Russian Revolution of 1917 freshened the minds of the ruling and middle classes. There remained an extreme fear of revolution disturbing the peace of Germany. It wouldn't be until 1933 that the Nazi Party and Adolf Hitler would come to rule Germany and regain its stability in the nation. If you like these videos, please do consider subscribing and liking, and don't forget to share it to other people who may forget about this history. Thank you.